Hey everybody, welcome to the first video. Today I'm going to be showing a Tenpai Dragon deck profile. I topped the Columbus Regional. It was top 48 and I got 26 out of 48, finishing 6-2-1. And then the next day I played in the Pittsburgh Regional and I bubbled out of the event at X3. So I'm just going to show the deck list real quick and let's just get straight into it. So to start off, the main engine, I played 3 Pydra, 3 Chandra, 2 Fadra, and I played 2 Genroku. Everything else is standard, but there is some debate as to whether or not to play 1 or 2 Genroku, and I think 2 is the correct number. I played in the Summersville Regional early in the month, possibly at the end of last month, I'm not too sure, and I was playing 1 at that event, and there were a lot of times where I would draw this card in my opening hand and really want a copy in deck, so I do think 2 is the right number. And then I'm playing 3 Kaiman, the best card in the deck. I pretty much always want to get this off of Padra, even more than the field spell most times, unless I hard open it. So 3 Kaiman. And I have 1 Sangan Summoning. Card's very, very good and powerful, so no reason to not play it even at 1. Then I played 15 hand traps, going in order of best to least best. I have Magnamut. Power-wise, he's not the best, but he is kind of an honorary engine piece because he'll search anything in your deck that you might need if he's summoned, and you can also summon him off of Heretic Seals, so you need him for that. So functions as a hand trap, but as an engine piece, he's kind of auto-include, but I'm counting him as a hand trap here. And then 3 Infinite Impermanence. This is the best hand trap. Just very little ways to interact with this card, and it's just overall very, very solid. And then I have 3 Ash Blossom, the next best hand trap, in my opinion. This card's really good on Kaiman and Nightmare Throne, and just a lot of cards in the game that you want to stop with this right now. Unfortunately, either one of these, like by themselves, are sometimes not enough if the opponent has like really good above average hands, but these are the cards that I want to see the most, are the Imperm and the Ash as far as hand traps go. And then next I played 2 Valor, and I know that this functions similarly to Impermanence, but it just has some issues, like you can only use it during your opponent's main phase, and if I draw Shifter, it's not really usable because it needs discarded to the graveyard. So I'd much rather see Imperm or Ash over Valor in terms of, you know, how good these cards are in the format. And then this may shock some people, but I think the next best hand trap in the deck is Shifter. And power wise, yes, it is a turn skip and just allows you to pretty much play going second instantly into Snake Eyes and Yubel. But the issue with it is unless your own hand is really, really good, you have a hard time killing through this card without your own graveyard. So I don't love this card, but you kind of do have to play it because it's a turn skip, and a lot of times what happens is you'll just get in for a good bit of damage under it and then just be a little bit short on the kill and end up needing to make seals and grind the game out. So I don't love it because it's not necessarily an auto win, but it is a turn skip and it is very good in the format, so definitely play 3. And then the last hand trap, I'm playing 3 Nibiru the Primal Being. I couldn't afford Perulia before the events, so this is what I was playing, and it is quite good so long as you open it with one of these other 8 cards. And you know, maybe sometimes the Magnamut is also good enough with the Nibiru. So you kind of just need a second card into a really good hand to make use of it. And there are rogue decks that this is good enough by itself, but typically you need a second hand trap. So I do think it's the worst of the suite because, like, if you open it with shifter, it's like the shifter just does everything by itself. So I don't know. I liked it as a replacement for Perulia. I mean, if you have Perulia, it might be better off in the side deck or not played, but I mean, it worked. I topped the event, so I was pretty happy with it. I played 9 board breakers. I have 3 Forbidden Droplet, 3 Raigeki, 2 Lightning Storm, and 1 Feather Duster. Forbidden Droplet plus like Raigeki / Dark Hole was really, really good in tests, like at locals and stuff. Like I pretty much always cracked the full board if I had like a board breaker with the Droplet. But in practice, the thing I liked Droplet the most for was just like dodging imperms and bailers by getting my monsters off the field. So that came up a lot during the regionals, and like sometimes the boards were just so big that like Raigeki Droplet was honestly not enough on its own. Like I would need a third card sometimes, which is kind of the idea of the hand traps. If you just weaken their board down with hand traps, even just having one of these will get you there sometimes. So I was fine without playing the Dark Holes. I didn't feel like I needed them, and there was just no space. Plus, Lightning Storm is very flexible and is good into monsters and spells and traps, so long as they don't play around it by summoning their guys in defense. So I think this ratio was perfectly fine. And honestly, I was worried Feather Duster wasn't going to be that good because the game is so like monster centric, at least in like modern day Yu-Gi-Oh. But almost every time I had Lightning Storm, I would want to call spells and traps, and Feather Duster was excellent every time it resolved. So yeah, I wouldn't change this at all, even though I was worried that spells and traps weren't going to be a big deal. I was very happy with this package. And then the last cards I play is just like a consistency package. It's Terraforming for the field spell because it's powerful and you do want to hard open it. Like I said, you do want to search Kaiman most times if you don't have it, but you know, hard drawing the field spell just makes your hand very good. So we are playing the Terraforming. I have 1 Pot of Prosperity just for consistency, and also 1 Dora Dora, kind of an honorary engine piece. Card's not required or anything. I'm at 41, and putting them in kind of fixed the deck math so that I was at about 87% to open a starter going first and 90% to open one going second with the Dora Dora. So I put them in, and there was one time where I had a guy summon Fossil Dino playing a barrier statue stun deck, and I had the imperm, but I still used its effect to gain the attack, and I was able to run it over with this card and make my Tenpai Dragon attacks matter even more. So yeah, both effects were good on this card over the weekend, and there is a world where I update the deck list and cut him, but I don't know, I thought it was pretty good, so he might stay in. Next up, I have the extra deck. For the synchros, I have the Transcendent. This card is broken. Doesn't let effects activate during the battle phase. I would make this sometimes in main phase 1 just to block Ash Blossom on Kaiman in the battle phase. This card was insane. 2 Bident. I really only ever needed 1 because I didn't really play any mirrors at the regional, and I think that's really the only time you'll ever need 2. I did banish the second one for Prosperity quite a bit, and I just, outside of them like holding Imperm or like having Ghost Bell in the battle phase or something, if you don't have Meteor Burst or Transcendent beforehand, I just like, unless they interact with this card, I don't think you really need to. Every time I summoned 1, it was pretty much game over, so not really sure if I'm going to keep playing 2 or not. Quibelt, this card was very good. It outed a Dimensional Fissure for me, and it's just, you know, could be interruption in the middle of your opponent's turn to get rid of something that's attacking and then stop another card from attacking. This card's very, very good. Samurai Destroyer, this card is one of the most important cards in the extra deck. It's very good against Yubel, so that you can get over their stuff without hitting yourself and actually destroy things by battle. and they won't float because they're negated until the end of the damage step. But I actually use this card to out a 5 material Expurley Noir. It had like 5800 defense, and I ended up making Samurai Destroyer because this card doesn't activate, and Noir's only protected against activated effects, and I just rammed it into it, took the life point damage, and negated its effects, and then I was later able to climb up into Transcendent and turn it into attack and run it over. So this card was really, 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 really clutch in the Pearly matchup. And then I have Meteor Burst to negate monster effects during the battle phase. It doesn't come up too often, but I did make it once over the weekend. And Black Rose is part of the deck's bread and butter, is to destroy everything with the field spell up with Black Rose because it is protected as a fire dragon. Then I played the Moonlight Rose, which was very good in the U-Bell matchup and won me a game, so I'm glad I put it in because this is the card that I played over Doolittle Chimera. And if I do cut Bident Dragon to 1, that's probably what I'm putting in is Doolittle Chimera. And then I have the Ready Rose. I never summoned it, but I did want to have it because at locals, like sometimes I was like running into cards that would gain a bunch of attack points based off of things in the graveyard, and this was a way to get over them. And it can tag out into Black Rose if you make it first and stuff. Like, it just seemed like it fit in with the theme of the deck, and banishing advantage out of the graveyard from decks like, you know, Snake Eye, or even like if you run into a Phantom Knight deck or something, like, it's just useful to have. So even though I never summoned it, I don't think I would cut it. And then Trident Dragon, I hardly ever make this card. I had it at the Summersville Regional. Someone let me borrow it, and the one time I made it, I lost because it was a mirror, and after I linked it off, or quick synchroed it in the battle phase to do the damage for game, it pretty much got popped by my opponent's Transcendent, which was in the graveyard. And yeah, so it was definitely a big misplay on my part, but it didn't go through one of the times I summoned it. And then I borrowed it again for these regionals because the card was previously unaffordable before the tin reprint. And I only used it once all weekend. And before that, I just straight up wasn't playing it because I didn't have it. And I went to like 2 months of locals. And 8 of the 10 locals that I attended, I got first place. And then I got second place at one of the other 2 without playing this card at all. So use that information as you will, but I mean, he does come up from time to time. I just don't think this card is as good as people give it credit for. And that is the Synchros. And then for the links, I played Striker Dragon just so that I could throw a guy into the graveyard so that I could potentially Kaiman out Fadra and bring back later is a possible play. Or it's also a link so that you can go into Little Knight and actually use its banish effect. Little Knight's great. There was one game where I had like an insane opening hand turn 1, and I made Little Knight under seals as an extra interruption. So yeah, I really like Little Knight in the deck, and I do think it should be included because it also helps you get over stuff that can't be destroyed by card effect, just like the Moonlight, and the deck kind of does have a problem with that. And then we have Heretic Seals, which you need for going first. Some people play 2 for the mirror. I only have 1. I never needed more. And then I'm playing Hida to link climb into Promethean Princess. And the idea of playing this without Zelantis is in the scenario where, let's just say, Pydra's your only starter, you go first, you get impermanenced, and then you know, you have your own hand traps and things like that, and then you make it back to turn 3, and your opponent has a fire monster in the graveyard. You can Hida and then climb up into Promethean Princess, bring back your Pydra, and try to start playing again, which is really good. And the reason I want to cut the Bident Dragon for the Doolittle is because if you have an extra monster, like, because let's just say you Princess bring back the Pydra and get your Kaiman, you can link it off into Doolittle Chimera, which will help you do more damage off of the Kaiman in the battle phase that turn. But for whatever reason, if they live, you'll have your Doolittle Chimera on the field with your Princess in the graveyard. And whenever your opponent summons something, you use it as an interruption and pop your Doolittle. And then your Doolittle can add your Genroku back to your hand to trigger on your opponent's turn to summon something, and then you can start walling up with your dragon cards during their battle phase and using their effects and like really grind a game out. So that's what this card was for. I don't think I summoned it over the weekend, but that play did come up at locals, so I really like having this in the extra deck. And then lastly, we're on to the side deck. We'll go one Kawaki Miro Drago, kind of an auto include. This card is really good into Yubel and other decks that are like light and dark based. It's not necessarily an auto win like it used to be. So against some decks it is, if it hits the field, but pretty much what this guy does is he just guarantees that if they run it over and get over it, like even if they start to play in main phase 2, it pretty much guarantees that you get to the next turn where you might be able to kill them. So this card's really good, and you should definitely have it in your side deck for your Erratic Seals. And then I'm playing 3 Spooky Dogwood. This card is not for the time rules. This card is because in the mirror match, if you activate this, for every card they summon, you're going to gain the life points of it, and then they can never kill you. And the Blaze Phoenix Snake Eye FTK is also still legal, albeit it's not as good as the regular Fiendsmith or Fire King variants. But that deck, and then there's the Gimmick Puppet deck is still, it exists, and I just didn't want to have to catch any strays from decks like that. And it was also good in the mirror, and it just happens to have a good effect for the time limit. So that card is in the side, and then one of the first auto include 3-ofs in the side was Cosmic Cyclone. This card's really good against decks like Labyrinth and Runic that are in the format, but it also has application against Snake Eyes where you can hit like Fire King Island or one of the continuous cards that Flamberge is trying to summon back. So it's like you could potentially, if they have Masquerena down in the zone, like cut them off from getting Masquerena back onto their end board if you open this card. So this card was, excuse me, really good against both combo and control decks, and I just really thought 3 was the appropriate amount because of how versatile and good it is in this format. And then we got 3 Heatwave, which I am playing over Power Filter because I don't like that you can interact with Power Filter. Everyone's playing 3 Cosmic Cyclone, and it's pretty easy to just remove Power Filter. So I'd rather have Heatwave because they have to have basically Cypher Gear Delta to interact with it. I understand that there's a world where like you don't open a hand good enough to kill with this card, and then it's like you would have rather had Power Filter to buy more time, but I don't know, I just prefer this because it's harder to interact with. Like if I don't draw a good enough hand to kill, then that's my problem. So Rivalry of Warlords, this is basically for Snake Eye and Memento and just any deck with different types. I think Ritual Beast has a bunch of different types too. Not very good against Yubel, but I did want to include it because it has like enough meta matchups that it's good against, and it's, also sometimes just great against road decks. I wasn't lucky enough to see it over the weekend ever, but it's just a good one of that if you're lucky enough to draw, it could be kind of game ending. And then I have 3-dimensional barrier for the mirror match, and it has a lot of carryover. You can use this against Yubel or Ritual Beast to call fusion. I played Melodious over the weekend, and it was really good then. It was really good against Pearly. Card is just an excellent card right now. And then these were the cards that I for sure wanted to play. There's only 14 of them here, and I just had a flex slot. And then my last slot that I played was Called by the Grave. Card's just really, really versatile. It's good going first, good going second. It's good against hand traps. It's especially good going second against Snake Eye and Yubel. So this was my 15th slot, and honestly, over the weekend there were 2 games like where entire matches were on the line, and my opponents had just happened to draw Called by the Grave, and the Called by the Grave literally won them the game. So it's like a bit unlucky that I was unfortunate enough to lose to a one of, especially one time in a 60 card deck. But I mean, the card was just so good against me and so good when I had it that I think I might try and fit it into the main deck now. But yeah, that's the deck profile. And like I said, I topped Columbus. I got 26 out of top 48. There was 300 plus players. I forget the exact number. And then Pittsburgh was smaller. It was a top 24 with, I think, 200 and some players. I do think they cracked over 180. But yeah, I bubbled out of that event. But that's the deck list, and I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time.